Hey, whatever, everybody. I just wanted to give an example of postmodern surrealist America. There is this designer. I'm not going to give his name out because, frankly, I just don't want to give his name. I don't care who he is. But he is a designer. He is a fashion designer. So, right off the bat, he's the most empty person that you could possibly have on the planet. Very shallow. The fashion industry is probably the worst. The fashion industry is as bad to me as the mass food industry. you know, like uh, like a big farm. Like when they go butcher cows, livestock. That's what the fashion industry feels like. That's how empty it feels. It feels as bad as killing livestock. I don't know. That's a bad equivocation, but that's just my personal opinion of the fashion world and how empty and void it is. And how it's every year it's forced upon us. You have to hear, if you're a person in my generation, I'm 40. Either you had a friend, a relative, somebody who's into fashion in a heavy way, and because it became an entertainment thing as well. Fashion became for girls like baseball was for boys, and you needed to know all the designers' names. You needed to know what house they designed for. They had inside words. They had jargon. They have all this, and then there were publications and television shows and things like that supported the fashion industry, and this goes back well into the 50s, really, and earlier, obviously in Hollywood with dresses, but you see this in every single television show or movie. It shows at the end. It gives a list of credits of what designer designed the clothes, etc. Merv Griffin's wearing Bowdy 500. That kind of thing, and it goes on to this very very day. So, and it's so shallow. It's the most empty shit ever. The fuck cares whose jacket you wear? Seriously, I mean, fucking A. But so the fashion industry, this designer has come up with this homeless fashions, clothes inspired by homeless people. Now, if this sounds familiar, this is what the Will Ferrell character did in Zoolander, the first Zoolander. By the way, don't ever see the second Zoolander. Don't ever do that to yourself. Avoid the second Zoolander at all costs. It's that toxic. I love Ben Stiller, but the second Zoolander is about as bad a movie as I've ever seen. I mean, it's up there with Love Guru. It's when somebody who is really talented comedically just should have walked away from the money. It's just awful. So anyway, um, so anyway, this designer has come up with fashions based on the homeless. And of course, not only is it it's a regurgitation of a joke that Ben Stiller wrote for Zoolander, but it's also shows an incredible lack of self-awareness that you would, and I don't consider people who design jackets for walking hangers, as my sister would call them, artists. You may be artistic, but I don't consider coming up with a jacket. You just ripped off a jacket. All this skinny jeans and stuff and these skinny suits that you're seeing. Go watch movies from the 1960s. Go watch the Mods and the Rockers. Go watch British Style. They just regurgitate. They just steal from another decade and then add a belt to it. Then then cinch it up. And so this guy creates this terrible line of clothes that is based on homeless fashion, which is just, and of course, the homeless in France during Fashion Week protested this, which is, it's also surreal. Homeless people being organized enough to actually protest and get out there and do that. And we don't help homeless people in our society. Every single nation has homeless people. There's plenty of houses that are empty. There's plenty of food in the grocery stores that get thrown away. There's plenty of buildings you could build, but these people still remain homeless. It's one of the things that breaks my heart as a human being, homeless people. Because, and the argument, of course, is, and I'm just diverting a little bit, but the argument, of course, is, well, they should work. Why should we help them? They should work. Well, I would put 99.999% of homeless people either cannot work physically, mentally, whatever, mental illness, physical illness. They fall through the cracks. They don't want to be contained in a cage somewhere in some mental institution because they're not that fucking out of it. They want to be free. They want to live free like the rest of us, but they can't hold a job. Nobody would choose to piss and shit in an alleyway smell like the worst fucking smells you could possibly have as a human being, walk around having to beg strangers for change, for literally pennies and quarters and dimes and nickels. Nobody chooses that over a normal, regular life. As crazy and shitty and terrible as our normal lives are, as bizarre and as surreal, nobody chooses to say, you know what, I'm going to be homeless because I'm totally a normal person, but I just want to roam the fucking earth like just like what's his name from from the Peanuts, the kid that had all the dirt fucking behind him. So the point is, Pigpen. I want to walk around looking like Pigpen. I want to literally be the human embodiment of Pigpen from the Peanuts. Nobody says that. These people need help. A lot of these people are veterans. A lot of these people are in areas they can't get out of. A lot of them are chemically addicted to a drug or alcohol. They can't break that. And then this new epidemic of homeless families, which is probably even more heartbreaking. Somebody had a decent job. One person gets laid off. The next thing you know, you try to scale down, but you can't find any low-income housing. Then your car breaks down. Your alternator goes. Your starter goes. Now you can't get to work. You don't have you can't get a ride to work. The buses don't work for you. You don't really have any money to ride the bus because it's, whatever amount of money a day. This just escalates. A kid gets sick. Somebody gets sick. You get sick. You're too prideful to go. It escalates, and you can't, and you don't get benefits 24 hours. You have to go apply and come up with, they do everything they can to not give you your benefits. A great movie, it's British. It's called I Daniel Blake. And it's an interesting movie. It's sad, but it's an interesting movie about how, and it could be shown about America. They go to a public house assistance office, go to an unemployment office. It's their nightmares. And they don't want to help you. And so this homeless thing, this homeless, because it's rising in America, and poverty is rising in America. It's not going down, it's rising. It's sad, and it's sad to watch. And so when somebody looks at that as entertainment, like it's as cruel to me as bum fights. If you've ever seen those on YouTube, some assholes, some frat rat little motherfuckers get their GoPros and watch two homeless men or women or whoever fight each other for money or for alcohol, because they're at the lowest point in their lives, and these people take advantage of them for entertainment. And then I'm astonished at that level of cruelty. And those things get hundreds of thousands, millions of views. Hundreds of thousands of views overall. Some sick fucking people. And so when the homeless are trivialized, and the homeless are made to be sport, and the homeless are turned into something we observe as almost, and we turn it into art, and not in a way to represent their pain and their suffering and to be an advocate for them, but in a way that's shallow and superficial and frivolous. It just lowers us all. It lowers anybody that sees that or hears that, it lowers them. And the fashion industry are a bunch of soulless motherfucking creatures. Have you ever seen some of the fucking vile monsters who roam the catwalks and fashion weeks of the world? I mean, some of the designers, some of these fucking horrible creatures. So, and some of these models and some of the worst people, and these executives, the editors, they're just shallow, so shallow. And to do this, this is just shows. It's like, and this, I know it's not an American thing, but it does. It's living in post-modern surrealist worlds, America / the world that America has influenced. Like everything is, it's just nothing makes sense. It's like everything it's Bizarro world almost. If you've ever read those comics, the Superman, when Superman, he was the bad Superman, you could tell because he had a goatee. So, and he would go fight himself in Bizarro world. He and Batman in Justice League. Anyway, point is, it's a bizarre world we live in when art or life rips off art. And doesn't even know it ripped off art. First of all, he had no idea. I think he was asked in an interview if he knew about that, and he said he had never seen the movie. Which really, you're in the fashion industry, you've never seen Zoolander? Okay, that's like being in the rock. It's like being a rock and roll star or being in the rock industry and never seeing Spinal Tap, to me. But this guy was completely unself-aware, as often the fashion industry is. They belittle, they turn everybody into cattle. It's a terrible place. It's horrible. It's like watching somebody take homeless people and reduce them to their clothing, and like they're just pieces. They're just art pieces on the street for you to. You're a disgusting creature and you should be fucking ashamed of yourself. But it just feels like that's where our world is moving to, and that scares the shit out of me. Lack of empathy, lack of sympathy, and lack of basic self-awareness that sort of thing isn't okay. Thank you for listening and have a great day.